Okay, good morning, everyone. I am Haley Black, the co founder and director of education of Inspirations Academy, and today is the last day of my virtual Bible study. We have been talking about the self driven child, the science and sense of giving your kids more control over their lives. It's written by a neuroscientist and an experienced educator. I highly recommend. This is actually written just to parents. So really, it's written for parents. The last few chapters are really written to the kids, um, primarily the older students, maybe getting ready to transition out of high school. But it's an amazing book. I picked it up at a bookstore randomly one day. I was just curious about it. And it has been really guiding me on how to guide and coach our families that we work with through Inspirations Academy. And this is not about stepping away as the parent or as the adult. This is paying attention to where brains are and how to really cater to your child's developmental phase without having to be a dictator and exhaust yourself. It's all about teaching you how to teach your children how to be self aware, how to be self motivated, how to take ownership over their choices. That's what this is all about. So, I am super excited to wrap this up with you today. So, we are finishing this book. We're on chapters 13 and 14. The other chapters have been posted to our YouTube channel if you want to kind of get the snippet. They're about 15 minutes long. I just kind of go through and read the things that stood out to me. So, chapter 13 is called Who's Ready for College? The American culture is really strong with this mindset that when you're graduating high school, the next step to success is college. And these guys really hit it on the head about thinking that through a little bit differently and talking really about okay, what happens when your child who has not been trained how to be self managed and how to be self monitoring their emotions, their choices, knowing their choices have consequences, owning those consequences. If they have not gone through that process at home or in an education setting, the statistics are scary, which they're not surprising though. We know these statistics. We know what happens with college freshmen, right? The freshman 15, the binge drinking, the drugs, the promiscuous sexual activity that starts to happen. So they kind of go into all of that, and they kind of go into it a little bit deeper with actually what does the research show and statistics show with kids who are planted in colleges, the campus life, campus living, um, and what actually happens in their brains. And then when they're reacting to that freedom for the first time and they have no idea how to manage all that freedom, that it leads to lifelong problems that are food related problems, social emotional problems. Suicide rate is there. Guys, we got to talk about it, right? That the suicide stuff is big. It's happening to children of all ages, and I think it's just shushed a lot. So they kind of start off with going about that. It says it's no wonder that there's a growing epidemic of mental health problems on college campuses, and that suicide is the second leading cause of death among college aged students. Isn't that insane? So it's talking about the stress of just stepping into adult world, but they haven't been trained how to have that kind of responsibility. It's just basically setting them up to fail, right? So if you're not intentionally training your kids and coaching and mentoring your kids, whether you're educators or your parents or your grandparents, if you're super involved in young people's lives, and I'm talking about all the way through early adulthood, brains are not even fully developed until they're 35. Ah, so that's why, like, if you have adult children, you're like, what the heck? It's because they haven't even, their brain's not even fully developed yet till like their mid 30s. Isn't that nuts? Which makes sense because, like, the choices I was making in my early 20s, I'm like, why would I have done that? Why did we do that? Because it wasn't developed yet. So, this is kind of addressing in this chapter about changing our mindset about college and how to know if your child's really ready for college. It says parents should consider sending their kid to college just as they'd consider a business investment, because it is a huge investment. We have conversations with our kids about college already. One just turned 13, the other one just turned 9. These are conversations we've been having for a long time with them, about going to college and how financially it's a huge investment. And there's a lot of money out there for college. And even if you earn all your full ride scholarships, that's an investment that you have earned that a lot of kids throw away because they drop out. They can't handle it. A lot of these kids, it kind of goes into these kids who are like the straight A students through high school, and that's all they did. They've never had a job, they've never had any other responsibility, because the focus for them and the push from their parents was to get 4.0, magna cum laude, or whatever they're called, valedictorian, and really beef up their transcripts academically in that way. And there's no other diversifying it. Statistically, those kids, it is scary what happens to these kids when they, for the first time, go away from that kind of structure that is organized by mom and dad, and they go into this world that allows a lot more freedom. And it says, can you really send your child to live on his own in an unregulated environment? Guys, college is unregulated. Okay, think about this. You're sending teenagers to live all together. It's just like a kindergarten classroom. I'm always like, why do they do this to them? Like, you have all these 5 and 6 year olds who are at the similar developmental phase of their brain, which is a tough place to be if you're trying to control those brains and put them into a standardized model, which their brains aren't ready for, right? They should be playing and exploring and getting messy, not sitting in a desk, right? This is why kindergarten classrooms are kind of crazy. And I begged, please don't ever put me in a kindergarten classroom, because that's what it is. It's like same thing for college. Like, you're putting all these 18 and 19 year olds together, all in the same dorm or the same campus. Most of them have not gone through self-monitoring training. A lot of them have never had expectations of like managing their household, managing their finances. A lot of them don't even have bank accounts yet. They've never had jobs, unless it's like mommy and daddy just handing them something and then, oh, here, you earn $100 for cleaning your room. That's not a job. Nope, that's an expectation. That should not be paid. Okay, no, do not pay kids to do chores. That is an expectation of managing a household, right? So unregulated, that's a big one. College is unregulated. So think about if you are still really having to be involved with your child and manage their schedules, remind them about when they have to do what. Have you done this yet? Have you done that yet? Probably a sign they're not ready for an unregulated life, right? You're kind of setting them up to fail, which we don't want to do as parents, because we all mean well as we are coaching them through that. This also goes into addressing, and all these stories in this book are true stories that these two guys have experienced with kids. And this is telling a story about a kid who was like this top-notch student. His number one goal is to get an Ivy League school, and that's all he focused on. He was kind of spoon-fed all these specialized tutors and all these things. Well, to make a long story short, he got in an Ivy League school and he flunked out. He flunked out in the first semester. But the mindset of the child was, it was everybody else's fault. Why? It was all the reasons. It was all the excuses. It was somebody else's fault for the failure, right? So this is what happens when we don't train our kids how to be self-driven, which involves self-monitoring, self-evaluating, self-reflecting. Like, these are things that have to be directly taught and coached and practiced, because the world does not expect that. Does not expect that out of kids. They're conforming. Like, as soon as they're 5 and they're in kindergarten, they're taught to conform and to be controlled, right? So then all of a sudden we send them off to college where there's no more regulating. So it's just like, oh! So if you have not taught these mindsets into your children, or you don't have these mindsets that your kids can do more, be more responsible, they can step it up a little bit. Yes, they should be folding your laundry. If like our 9-year-old, that's a big thing. I'm like, and I have dumped baskets that have been folded in a really poor way. I'm like, nope, try again. That is not how you fold my shirts, right? So it's like, give them responsibilities and make sure they're being held accountable to the things, because it empowers them, that they have control. That's kind of what the whole thing is here, is what the brain science, the neuroscience says, to really get kids to know and understand and want to be self-motivated and self-driven and all those things, which is releasing it off your shoulders, guys. Take the pressure off of you. You are busy. You work hard, right? You are managing all these things in life. And you just want to be a parent that loves your child instead of fussing at your child all the time. You can be that person, right? So that's what this brain science is saying, is that really what it is it's a sense of control. So kids, the brain, I shouldn't even say kids, your brain is always seeking a sense of control, which is why if you've never experienced something before, or you're not sure how something's going to go, your brain is already processing it as out of control, out of control, out of control, which creates the anxiety. You might physically react because your brain doesn't know the difference between what's truth and what's not, what actually happened and what hasn't. So that's where all this mental health stuff comes from. It's all neuroscience, but you have control over how you think, right? So that's what this is all about. And going into another book that I've been reading called Switch on Your Brain by Dr. Caroline Leaf. It's going to be a fall book study that I share with you guys. It goes into the biblical connection to all this neuroscience that's kind of new in the past decade. But that's what it's all about, is teaching them how to have control and how to self-manage and meet expectations. Because once they go through that process, their brain's like, oh wow, I can do this. Like, okay, I can do this. I don't need you to tell me what to do. And as soon as they achieve in that zone of expectation, of rigorous expectation, then what starts to happen, guys, I've seen this as a parent, and I have seen this as an educator. I've worked in public schools for almost 20 years, and now I run Inspirations Academy, but it's the same kind of thing that's happening. Is once you push them and they achieve in the hard, then all of a sudden they're like, okay, give me space. I can do it. They'll start to say things like that. And it's super awesome. And sometimes it's really hard, especially as a parent. It's like, okay, are you sure? And they're like, I got it. And it's not going to always be perfect. They're going to still make mistakes, but that's what you want out of all of them. This is also talking about, having the kids be a part of the investing. Love this. We are super advocates of this. We don't give our kids everything they want. We just don't. Like we just have real world conversations. And it says, you won't get a sense of control over your life by avoiding hard work or receiving unearned trophies, right? And so this is what we tell our students. We're like, guys, we're getting ready to play a game. There are going to be winners and there are going to be losers. Here's how you handle winning. Here's how you handle losing. Let's practice. Like, they need to know, like, that not everybody is a winner. Like, that is false. That is a false sense of reality. It says we gain strength from what we invest in and accomplish, like what we actually accomplish, things that we've had to work hard for. So we actually really encourage students that I get involved with the academy. They need to have an investment with this choice. This is not parents are just paying your tuition and you show up and just have fun. There are expectations for this investment, whether it's you're going to have to financially contribute to this, or how you're going to contribute more at home since you're not going to be at school for 7 hours, 5 days a week. How are we going to beef up that expectation? So this is not an extra load on mom and dad. Like, these are conversations that we are having with the young ones all the way up through the high school aged kids. Our kids have financial stake and things that they want. So they're wanting private music lessons. That's great. I love it. Let's see how this goes. We had them sign a contract. Our oldest one, we had her sign a contract, and she had to commit to a job. So she cleans. and she makes federal minimum wage. So, and there's been days where she's not gotten paid because it hasn't been done very well. But she cleans our academy to earn her. She pays for all her material. She pays for her violin rental, so she's going to end up owning it herself outright, not us. She pays for her books. We pay for her lessons, and we use our gas to get her to the lessons. Like, it's a contract. So she understands, like, there's ownership. We will give this to you, but you got to meet us here, right? You sign this. You agree that this is the process that you said you would practice daily for 15 minutes. You were breaking your contract. This is the words that we're using. And guys, it's powerful. It is so powerful. And it just teaches that mindset of you can achieve. You just have to strategically plan and not be reactive to things that you just want right away, right? That's the culture that we're in. It's just, you get what you want, when you want, how you want it right away, right? And then you're getting mad if you don't get it, right? This is the instantaneous gratification culture that we have to really intentionally untrain out of them, because it's just not real world when they're into the adult world. It's just not. You're not going to be instantly gratified. I love this. I had never heard of this before. So in other countries around the world, like Germany, Denmark, Australia, the UK, there is actually encouraged for these teenagers to take a gap year or two to travel, work, or even serve in the military before they commit to higher education plan. It's kind of giving them time to develop their brains better, to practice self-monitoring strategies in an unregulated environment, just allow more brain development, maybe explore ideas of what they would want to even invest into if they go to college. There's just so many kids. Like when I went to a private liberal arts school, it was not cheap. And I had the A's, I had the scholarships. I didn't have a full ride, but I was like, how many people were there at this private liberal arts school that had no idea what they even wanted to major in? I'm like, what? Like, how can you go and pay that much money to just explore ideas? Like, what? So many people were there that had no idea what they wanted to do, even just even like a generic field. I mean, they were like, we're just going to major in communications. I'm like, you're paying $25,000 a year for that. That was like a long time ago, guys. But so it's probably double that now. But I'm like, I remember thinking that, like, you're getting all these college loans, but again, there was no financial ownership for them. Like, they weren't a part of that process. That was their parents doing that. Parents just paying for it. It didn't mean anything to those kids. I just remember that. I was like, oh my gosh, I love this gap year idea. I think this is a super awesome thing. Taking the time to get off autopilot and be intentional about decisions is a great growth opportunity. Then it goes into the last chapter, alternative routes beyond college. It says the obsessively driven and the undermotivated have it in their heads that if they aren't top students, they're losers and will be working at McDonald's at age 50. I think this is still things we hear people say. I don't want my kid to be working at McDonald's when they're 50. People still say that to me, getting freaked out that they're not going through the traditional high school plan. I'm like, guys, come on, stay with me, right? It says being a straight A student by definition requires a high level of conformity. Do we really want to teach people conformity and to wait to be told what to do? That's a scary mindset. It's not the route to a high level of success. So highly successful people, when you want to start researching these big time successful people, like Google, like look it all up, like who invented Facebook, who invented Google, who invented this, who invented that, look up. You will be shocked what their actual late childhood plan was. A lot of them were high school dropouts. A lot of them never even attended college. A lot of them just came up with these crazy ideas in their garages, and now they're like multi-billionaires, right? So I'm not saying that not going to college is the way to success. I'm just saying, and that's what this book goes into, is there are very many options that can go beyond the traditional American path of high school for 4 years, college for 4 years. It doesn't have to look like that. And you're financially investing in this, that a lot of the statistics show your investment flatlines. It flatlines within the first year, and you've just thrown tens of thousands of dollars at it. Okay, so this is just kind of letting you be aware of the thinking process to go through with your kids. Many adults who were top students and have forged successful careers are miserable, right? So again, this is like, does an 18-year-old, have they really learned how to pray over their purpose? No. Not, a lot of them no. Like, a lot of kids have not learned that. I'm learning it as an adult still. Praying over your purpose. We have no idea what's going to happen and what God's plan is for you. All you can do is trust the day, to trust today. Like, show me where you want me to go today. And teaching your kids and yourself how to go through that process in your faith, because that's really that's the number one, right? So you might have all these ideas and your kids might be saying, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, because this is what all the things they say. Or maybe you're subconsciously implying that that is the key to success, is a high paying career. And it's not always, right? So when you are in a culture where it's value, the values are money and things and status, when you dive into some of those people who have worked to the top of a career plan, it is, and again, very scary, sad stories, very, very sad. I mean, look at these celebrities. They appear to have it all, and then you hear these sad addiction stories or overdoses or suicides. So it's just pay attention, right? Pay attention. Grab this book, guys. Check us out. The info about Inspirations is in the chat. I'll see you guys here another day.